There's magic in the theater.
There's magic in the theater.
And the theater is magic.
And the theater is magic.
And truly blessed are those.
And truly blessed are those who are able to share their talents with others. So break a leg
And give a peck.
and give a peck.
Right.
My name is Gayla Ann Leach McCoy. I owned a costume shop here for nearly 40 years. I began with the Royal Players from the very thought.
My name is Selena Ellis, and I am the past president of the Royal Players, and as past president I still serve on the board.
My name is Linda Hollenbeck. I'm a charter member. I'm on the board, been on the board many years, and have been involved in it from the beginning.
I'm Farrell McCoy. I was with Gayla and Bob when we first started in the first play that we did.
I'm Susan Dill, and I'm the current president of the Royal Players Board.
Something that Bob would always come in and tell me, we just want to have a play. And really, he didn't really call it theater, he called it putting on plays. And he said, we've got everything we need right here in Benton. We've got an orchestra, we have a choral society, we have people that can do this and people that can do that. Said all we've got to do is get them together and put on a play. And I kind of passed it off first, just kind of somebody, thinking of something to do, but he was so persistent that finally I told Bob, I said, now, Bob, the kind of people that it takes to make up an organization like what you're talking about is independent, narcissistic, confident. If you've got 25 characters, you've got 25 leaders with these kind of personalities. And he said, oh, no. We're not going to do that. We are not going to get bogged down with bylaws, rules, or anything like this. We're going to put on play. Finally, he wore me down, and he said, if you'll come on board, he said, I'll do all the legwork. Okay, I said, I've got my national convention in July. I said, let me go to that convention and come back. And he said, okay, when will you be back? I mean, he was like pinning me down, and he said, all right, he said, we will have the meeting at such and such time at my house when you get back. And so we had it. Farrell didn't know anything about this. And so as we were driving, I think we were going to Florida that year, I said, did I tell you that we're going to have a community theater in Benton? And Farrell goes, no, I haven't heard that. And he said, well, who's in it? And I said, well, so far, just Bob Carson and I. And he said, Farrell goes, oh, Lord. And so anyway, I said, we went on and I told him what all Bob was doing and everything. Well, by the time we got back, Bob had talked to all these people. And we had the meeting in his house, and there were several people there. There was people that I knew and people that I had not met before and never did see again. They never showed up anymore. But that was just a meeting to start the planning. That wasn't really the meeting to organize that was a meeting to say we wanted to have a play.
And I remember him coming to me and said, we want to start a theater. And I said, oh, that's great. I can write a story about that because I'm an editor at the Courier. And he said, oh, yeah, you can write a story, that'll be all right. But he said some choice words because he had very colorful language. But he said, but that's not what we want from you. We want you to be in it. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's great. I'd love to get involved with it.
My part of the Royal Players began when I saw an article in the paper. It was written by Linda Hollenbeck, and she wanted to get together a group to start a community theater. So I knew that because of Linda's skills that it would go. This wasn't just some whimsical idea. So I went to the first meeting and I was hooked.
Bob was our first president, and we really hadn't voted completely on the name until I believe the third meeting. So he had to go ahead and open a checking account. And so the name of that checking account was Our Town.
The play was selected by the time I was involved. He said, we're going to do a play, and we've picked out the play. We've got the play. It's going to be Our Town, Thornton Wilder's Our Town. I said, well, that's great. And some of it I think maybe had to do with the fact it was about a small town, a community, just ordinary people, or all kinds of people, I guess it was, which is what you tend to get in a theater group. You get people from all strata, so.
Playgoers, I bid you welcome. The theater is a temple, and we are here to worship the gods of comedy and tragedy.
From that house of shame.
Well, I was just standing there saying, shame, shame, shame.
Well, you don't have to give me the minnow or the seashells. If I get you that girl, just give me me.
Give you?
My freedom!
Oh, Pseudolus, people do not go about freeing slaves.
Be the first. Start a fashion. I want you to be there when I tell them about you.
Tell them what? Woo! About me. I have nothing to fear. I am a pillar of virtue. I go.
Pillar of virtue. Well, I think that might be news to the family. That their slave in chief, their pillar of virtue, has secreted within the confines of his cubicle Rome's most extensive and diversified collection of erotic pottery. Tell me, where did you get that fruit bowl with the freeze up?
Oh, Pseudolus! As you know, your mother and father have placed me in charge of your innocence. However, I have decided to allow you to remain with the girl until the arrival of her captain.
Oh, Philia.
You stop doing that! You can hurt each other!
All in that one meeting, we named the play, named the organization, elected officers, had some auditions, and formed a board, I believe.
We cast it in our organizational meeting. We had got not the full cast, but we got half of the cast, which was kind of amazing. You know, that you could do it that fast.
Everybody just about that was involved in it was on the board. Everybody came to the meetings, and then you were just assigned duties, and there wasn't that many people in it, so we would just all go to every production, to every rehearsal, and then people would just say, well, you be the producer this time, you be the stage manager, and that's kind of the way it was started. There was not that many people in it at the very beginning.
Well, the early days were not near as organized as they are now. There would be a play, the play selection committee would meet and decide what sequence of plays we would do throughout the year. And then I would get that list of plays and we ask, which ones would you like to work on? And so I kind of look it over and say, well, I think I'll work on this one or that one.
The name's Oliver Twist.
And my name is Jack Dawkins, better known among me more intimate friends as the Artful Dodger.
Glad to meet you, Mr. Dawkins.
Come to think of it, I ain't got no intimate friends. Still, what's the difference, me old pork sausage? You'll come with me.
You sure, Mr. Fagin, won't mind?
Mind? Consider yourself at home. Consider yourself one of the family. I've taken to you so strong. It's clear we're going to get along.
Where is love? Does it fall from sky?
stay true just as long as Bill needs me.
We had our productions at various places. The high school, which is huge and is not as intimate for the size of our crowds.
And they didn't let that go to anybody because they were so particular with it and everything, and really didn't expect, you know. And Bob said, I'm a taxpayer. We're all taxpayers. And he said, I guarantee we will get that auditorium. He did. He got the auditorium.
You know, I'll do this or I'll do that, and that's what I did. I made, whenever they needed posters made, had started working on my computer quite a bit, and so I'd make it, and they'd say, yeah, well, you do some more. And so then, you know, you just evolved into doing it. Everybody was interested in working with it, though, because it was really exciting to be doing theater.
Once he had it in his head that you could do something, you were the best. And it really didn't matter, you know, because he thought I could sing because I did costumes. And until he heard me singing, he said, Gail, you're off key. And I said, I know, I can't sing. And he was surprised.
I had absolutely no knowledge. And I cannot believe, even to this day, that I auditioned for our first production, Our Town, and got one of the leading parts, Mrs. Gibbs.
We practiced for over 6 weeks in full makeup and full costume every night. Bob was able to secure that building for us, whom they never let use, just about 3 to 5 nights a week for the whole time that we were in rehearsals, and we put our costumes on every night, full makeup every night, and wondered why we were worn out.
Well, we didn't know what we were doing. Is how I would describe the early days of our theater.
We started out struggling. We had no money. We had no plays. We had just basically a desire to do it at that time.
I'm not changing nobody. What's the man's name on first base?
No, what's the man's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
Oh, he's on third. We're not talking about him.
How did I get on third base?
You mentioned his name.
If I mentioned third baseman's name, who did I say was playing third?
No, who's playing first?
Would you stay off of first base?
Well, what do you want me to do?
Now, what is the man's name on third base?
No, what is the man's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third.
There I go, back on third again.
Well, I can't change the player.
Will you please stay on third base?
All right, what is it you want to know?
What is the man's name on third base?
What is the man's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
Third base.
Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy or bright, 'cause I only have eyes for you.
First opening, I want to say maybe 20 people, maybe. And we were in an auditorium that held 1,500 people.
Back then there were some lean days when we didn't know if we were going to be able to pay some of our bills.
One of the comments that was made after we did our first show was, can y'all not afford to have a set? And so anyway, it was a learning situation for us as well as for our patrons. But we made it through it. Everybody enjoyed it.
In my own little corner, in my own little chair, I can be whatever I want to be. On the wing of my fancy, I can fly anywhere, and the world will open its arms to me.
10 minutes ago I saw you. I looked up when you came through the door. My head started reeling. You gave me the feeling. The room had no ceiling. out my arms and just sing out the news. I have found her, she's an angel, with the dust of the stars in her eyes. We are dancing, we are flying, and she's taking me back to the skies. In the arms of my love, I'm flying over mountain and meadow and plain. And I like it so well that for all I can tell, I may never come down again. I may never come down to earth again.
The Royal Players, of course, started as Central Arkansas Community Players. Royal Players did not come into existence until after we were in the Royal Theater.
The year 2000, the winter of 2000, it was so cold and we had an ice storm and the electricity was off at my house for a week and a half. And this whole town was just, except for the downtown part, was dark. I mean, everybody's electricity was off. One of our members received a phone call from Jerry Van Dyke saying, I would like to deed the property over to you for the Royal Theater with the lien. Can you get the paperwork done? Well, my husband, Bucky Ellis, is an attorney, and he did the paperwork. So I was afraid we're going to have to do it by candlelight, but his office is downtown here, so they had electricity. So he got the paperwork done, and everything got signed so that it was deeded to us before the end of the calendar year.
First of all, the building was built in 1920 and remained a movie theater until 1996, and then after 96, between 96 and 2000, it was continued to be used as a movie theater and live theater. And Jerry Van Dyke, the actor, owned it at that point, and Jerry Van Dyke Studios. And then in 2000, Mr. Van Dyke donated the Royal Theater to the Central Arkansas Community Players, which immediately changed their name to Royal Players. This area was our balcony. Once again, also beginning in 1920, it was where there was overflow seating to accommodate a total of 500 people for this theater at that point in time. And it was closed in 1978 and became a second screen. There was a second screen. You can almost see where it was located when they closed this in, just past the original rail there that divided the balcony and the abyss of the auditorium there. This was our original projection booth in 1920 up here as well. It became a second projection booth in 1978. This area came to be in 1959. Prior to 1959, this area didn't exist as a concession. It was right over here in what's now our credit card room. Small room where there's a collage of movie memorabilia in the window. That was our original concession, and they sold concessions to people on the street, as well as pencils and paper to school kids as they went to school. And they relocated that concession here in 59 and moved the doors forward and therefore took out some of the seating to do that. The space we're in right now was again storage. You're going to think we'd have nothing but storage in this building. Storage before this became live theater. When this became live theater in 2000, Farrell McCoy, Gayla's husband, and several other men in the group, able-bodied men, got back here and redid the walls and put carpet down and made this into a dressing room for all these budding stars, all these actors we have. And this has been our dressing room ever since. And something I'm really pretty proud of is the stairs that we added over the years. I'm not sure, probably about 10 years ago, we added these stairs that go to a balcony. It's a permanent balcony, and it's used for so many plays that it's really unbelievable how many plays it is used for. There's not much width to this dressing room, so when you get 40 people back here, you got to get along with them, certainly. This is how people leave their mark, so to speak, on our theater. This is the physical end of it. They leave their mark also with their talents, certainly. But this represents a collaboration of the brightest and best as far as talented people and people who develop not only their craft but friendships that last a lifetime as well. But these are our wells, and they encompass our stairwells and our hallways where the actors come and go. They can access the stage from the side over here as well. There are steps that they can go up and access the stage. They can also, of course, go back and forth from the dressing room through these hallways and stairwells to access the stage. So these are a very integral part, actually, of our stage life, because these are the main arteries of the travel for the actors. We recently, in the past several years, stripped the material off the walls. There were curtains and there was some fibrous material encasing the walls. We stripped it down to the brick, and these frescoes that you see on the wall are original to the theater. They are, and they were done by local artists. Not exactly sure who it was, but they are original, and as I say, they're frescoes, and we would love to preserve them in some fashion at some point. That's still somewhat up in the air, and it's a bit technical for me. We just know that we want to preserve them, and we're going to endeavor to do so if we can. That was the balcony, and you see the jut out, the extension there. That was done in '78, as I alluded to, when a second screen was placed up there. And that box, so to speak, up there is where the sound equipment, some of the sound equipment was behind the silver screen up there. And they had a separate projection booth upstairs. And that's why that's out the way it is. We have plans to do away with that at some point and improve our lighting and sound to accommodate what we are now.
We were new. We were, to be a stagehand and change the scenery and all that, we had no idea how to do that. But with our town, it was a table and a chair and a ladder. And, we learned by doing those things.
Well, they picked our town as the first show because there's no set involved, and the props are imaginary. Now, the downside to it is that it takes a lot of talent from the actors. Luckily, I think for our group that was an upside, because I think we had the talented people that could shell peas without there really being any peas or any pot. But it is an acting exercise.
I think our town was picked because it was a classic. It is a classic.
We wanted theater in our town. We wanted our town to have some culture. And we wanted our town to be known as a place that you could come for clean entertainment, go out to eat, bring your family to theater, to live theater, and just something that our town could build on. And I think that's why we picked our town.
My name is Lisa Goodrich, and I'm the director. I saw it 20 years ago at Butler Auditorium when the Central Arkansas Community Players did it, and I've loved it ever since, and I wanted to either be in it or direct it.
Here, chick, 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 chick. No, go away, you, go away. Here, chick, 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 chick. What's the matter with you? Fight, fight, fight. That's all you do. You don't belong to me. Where'd you come from? Don't be so scared. Nobody's going to hurt you.
What do you want to do after school's over?
Oh, you know, Pa. I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to get up early and milk and feed the stock? And you'll be able to hoe and hay all day?
Sure I will. What do you mean, Pa?
Well, George, while I was at my office today, I heard a funny sound. And what do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood.
I can't work at all. The moonlight's so terrible.
Emily, did you get the third problem?
Which?
Third.
Why, yes, George. That's the easiest of them all.
I don't see it, Emily. Can you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. The answer's in yards.
Yards? How do you mean?
In square yards?
Oh, it's square yards.
Yes, George, don't you see?
Yeah.
In square yards of wallpaper?
What? Wallpaper, oh, I see. Thanks a lot, Emily.
You're welcome.
My name is Courtney Fose, and I'm playing Mrs. Soames.
My name is Jim Trolette. I play Editor Webb.
Ryan Lynch, and I play Howie Newsom.
Hey, I'm Savannah, and I'm in the ensemble.
I'm Melanie Allen. I'm playing Mrs. Julia Gibbs.
I'm Gina Hudson, and I'm in the ensemble. I have several different roles.
I am Ben Mills, and I am an ensemble member.
I'm Brian Robertson, and I'm playing Sam Craig.
I'm Elena Serrato.
Jeff Miller.
I'm Paul Johnston, and I'm playing Constable Warren.
I'm Ansley Clay. I play Rebecca.
My name is Zachary Glover, and I play Cy Crow, the second male person, the male man person, in our town.
I'm Donna Johnston. I play the stage manager.
My name is Michael Bartholomew, and I'm playing George Gibbs.
My name is Hillary Bell. I'm playing Emily Webb, and I'm also the set designer.
The name of the town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts line. Latitude 42 degrees, 40 minutes. Longitude 70 degrees, 37 minutes.
Mr. Webb, is there any culture or love of beauty in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much. Not in the sense that you mean. Come to think of it, there's some girls that play piano at Pike School commencement, but they ain't happy about it. No, ma'am, there isn't much culture. But maybe this is a place to tell you that we've got a lot of pleasures of the time here. We like the sun coming up over the mountains in the morning. And we all notice a good deal about the birds.
I guess you like school.
Well, I always feel it's something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, really. It passes the time.
Yeah.
A good deal of time's gone by. It's evening. You can hear choir practice going on in the Congregational Church. The children are at home during their schoolwork. The day's running down like a tired clock.
The first night we had auditions, we had a slew of girls show up for Emily. And I didn't know who I wanted to be Emily, obviously, because you go in with a blank canvas. But I knew what characteristics I was looking for. I, in fact, had narrowed it down in my head after the second night to 4 girls. And I literally had to sleep on it. And then it finally just came to me who had it. Who could bring Emily out the best?
I always expect a man to be perfect, and I think he should be. My father is, and as far as I can see, your father is. There's no reason on earth why you shouldn't be too. And don't tell me it's the other way around, that men aren't naturally good and girls are. You might as well know right now that I'm not perfect.
And it's not easy for a girl to be perfect as a man because, well,
We girls are more nervous.
Because Emily is such a personable character to everybody. Everybody falls in love with Emily. And when that decision was finally made, it came down to Hillary Bell, who I thought, that's Emily. When you see Hillary on stage, you think that's Emily. You never think Hillary Bell. You think that's Emily. That's Emily Webb.
I'm sorry I said all that about you. I don't know what made me say it.
Emily.
Now I can see it's not true at all, and I suddenly feel it isn't very important anyway.
Emily, would you like an ice cream soda before you go home?
Thank you. I would.
When I was a child, this used to be the Jerry Van Dyke Theater, and I used to come and watch movies here. So I knew that it existed, but I didn't know that it had been changed into a sort of playhouse, if you will, until I was probably 13 or 14, and I told my parents, I want to get into acting, and they said, why don't you go to the Jerry Van Dyke Theater? And I said, well, why? And they said, well, you know, they do plays there, and I didn't know. And then, so I was too nervous to really audition, and then finally I saw that they were having auditions of sorts for the Reader's Theater of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. So that was when I was probably 15. I finally got my feet wet. So.
When it came to George, it was another hard decision because I had a whole bunch of boys come in, and the minute Michael read George, everybody, you could hear everybody in the auditorium go, wow. And that's it clicked. It was just, that's George.
Emily, do you want to know why I don't want to go to agricultural school? I think once you found somebody that you're fond of, I mean, somebody that's fond of you too and is interested enough to tell you things about your character, well, I think that's just as important as going away to college, even more so. That's what I think.
What made me decide to audition is, well, it's one of my favorite plays from the first time I ever saw it or heard about it. It's always been one of my favorite plays, so I just wanted to, and I've done it 2 other times actually at other theaters, so I just wanted to have another chance to do it again.
George, to me, in my mind, was a hard worker, but he didn't want to go away and lose what he might have. So he decided to stay. And that's what I was looking for, was somebody who had the love in his eyes for this woman.
What's it like being in such an iconic play? Well, it's a little intimidating, you know, because it's been done so many times, and probably everybody who's ever been in theater or been, you know, active and going to see theater has heard of it or seen it or read it at some point in their lives. So, you know, people come in expecting to see one thing or see the same thing. You have to try and present it to them in a new way, you know, because you want them to walk away different from when they walked in.
Emily, what do you think? We might work out a kind of telegraph system from your window to mine. And well, every once in a while, if I get a little stuck, you could give me a hint or two about one of those algebra problems? I don't mean the answers, of course not, Emily, just some little hint.
Oh, I think hints are allowed. So, if you get stuck, George, whistle to me, and I'll give you some hints.
You're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figure it's just the way a person's born.
Yeah, but I want to be a farmer. My Uncle Luke's farm. Well, he says whenever I'm ready, I can just come work on it and just gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. Thanks. Better be getting out to the baseball fields. Good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
Thanks for the talk. So long.
So long, George.
My name is Tom Wyndham. This time around, I play Professor Willard and Joe Stoddard, the Undertaker.
Grover's Corners. Let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pleistocene granite of the Appalachian Range. I may say it's some of the oldest land in the world. We're very proud of that. The population at the moment, 2,642. The postal district brings in another 507, which makes it a total of 3,149. Mortality and birth rate constant by McPherson's gauge, 6.032. Well, it's the 20th anniversary edition, and I was in our first play in our town 20 years ago. That production, I was editor web. 52 years ago, I played George in it at our church production. And I've grown up in it, obviously. You have George and the parent, and now the Undertaker. It's a good evolution. Just to see the different perspectives of, the youth, the parent, and the Undertaker, and all. It's really been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'm afraid we won't have time for anything more, but thank you very much.
Not at all, ma'am, not at all.
This way, Professor. Thank you.
The stage manager was probably the easiest to cast. The minute Donna started reading it, you felt like she was going to tell you this wonderful story. And when she auditioned and she was reading for the mothers, it just didn't feel as natural. And then when she read for the stage manager, you thought, I'm going to listen to what she says, and I'm going to watch everything she does.
My oldest daughter asked me why I didn't ever do anything that my daughters could applaud and cheer me on for. I always participated in events that they were in and cheered them on and applauded for them, and so she asked me to find something that they could applaud for me.
So, what do you say, people 1,000 years from now? This is the way we were in the provinces north of New York, beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up, and in our marrying, and in our living, and in our dying.
My name's Cassie Lovell. I am part of the costume design team, and I'm also various parts in the play.
And I'm Martha D. Burton, and I'm a senior citizen.
I think that with any good play, you start by trying to understand the time period that the play is set in. I guess you study the basics and what they believed and the customs that their clothing went along with. And you see what you have and you go from there.
And watch a lot of old movies like Beat Me in St. Louis.
With Emily, I wanted innocence about her. I wanted something, I didn't want her to be jaded by the world. I wanted her to be a little bit naive when it came to it.
Especially when in the third act, Emily goes back to being 12 years old. You have to take into consideration that she is reverting back. Even though she's 26, she's reverting back to being 12. So you kind of have to show that she is a woman and she's also a little girl in that costume and that hair and makeup setting. So.
A lot of people think the challenge is directing a play, period, is props, scenery, set. What I learned with our town is once you take away all of that, it really is the blocking, the pantomiming, getting the actors to act like they're eating with no table in front of them, to act like they're eating from food that's not there. That's the biggest challenge, is when you stripped away all of that, is oh Lord, how am I going to do this? Where are we going to put people? How are they going to eat from a bowl that's not even existing? So that was the biggest challenge.
It started off, we were going to have tables, and then a soda shop counter, and then going through rehearsals, we realized we didn't really need them, and we wanted to focus more on the acting, on the families, and showing everything that way. So for me, it was very difficult letting go and kind of just letting the actors show you what the set was.
From our play 20 years ago, to tell you how I can stay with you, Mrs. Webb, my wife at the time, played by Selena Ellis, when we see each other in town now, we'll still go, hey Myrtle, hey Charles. So it's still part of us.
The fact that I had read it when I was the age of Emily Webb,
And then I had seen CACP do it when I was the age of, say, Mrs. Webb, and now to get to see it as probably older than most of the people on the Hill, it was very interesting that, you know, I had a different perspective each time. Came full circle.
I don't think it's a play that will ever go out of style, because even though it's about another period in our country's history, some of the principles are still the same. The people's values are much the same. Certainly the customs are a little different, but still, you know, those basic things are there, you know, and they're still here.
It's obviously not a contemporary play, and yet for the time period it was very light, and then it became very heavy, and I really like that.
Every major actor has an art talent at some point in their life, and I think the message that the play gives is important because it proves that no matter where you're from, you have an importance and you have an effect on the world.
Well, I think it does reflect on what a community of people are like, a small town, and how they interact, and how the human being strives to have that sense of community.
It's like you said, being away all the time and meeting all those new people. Gosh, if anything like that should happen, I don't want to go away. I bet new people aren't any better than old ones, but they almost never are.
Because it's just life. I mean, it starts out with just families, and then they fall in love and get married, and then death. I mean, it's just a cycle that's happened since the world began.
And you have this progression of people's lives from birth to death, and also the fact that the stage manager really represents God, according to a lot of people that have analyzed the play, and that's really interesting to me.
I think what's interesting what Thornton Wilder is talking about, you're having the Great Depression. There's been a lot of emphasis on, no, we have to break down the old systems and change everything, and no, those systems don't work. And what he's talking about really is community and families and marriage having a significant way in how society functions and continuing to have it function. The role those entities play, especially in marriage, when you're right now to it. Even the parents, they have some squabbles, but they wouldn't be able to function without each other.
It's very emotional, and it's has a really deep
meaning in life. And I really like it. I really like what it portrays. And
The message of the play is to make sure that you're not living life, that you're appreciating everything you have, everything you're given, and especially today, people don't do that. So it might be even more important now than it was back then.
Mama, look at me 1 minute as though you really saw me. Mama, 14 years have gone by. I'm dead. You're a grandmother, Mama. I married George Gibbs, Mama. Wally's dead, too. His appendix burst on a camping trip to North Conway. We all felt just terrible about it, don't you remember? But just for a moment, we're all together. Just for a moment, we're happy. Let's look at one another.
It's a universal message to all of us that we don't slow down enough every day to look at what's important around us. We are in a cell phone, technology-driven world, and this play to me shows you that you should just slow down, take a look, love the ones that are near you. Take that moment to really look at them, to really look at yourself.
Not only to value the small things in our lives, but also not to hold on to them too tightly, because eventually it's all going to be taken away from us. Eventually we end up losing, the things we had and the people we loved and the things we suffer. Eventually we have to let go of it at some point, whether it's when we die or when somebody else dies. The harder you hold on to something, the harder it is to let go.
Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Cover's Corners. Mama and Papa. Goodbye to the clock's ticking. And Mama's sunflowers. Food. And coffee. New iron dresses. And hot baths. And sleeping. And waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anybody to realize you. Do human beings ever truly realize life while they live it? Every minute.
No. Some poets and saints maybe, but most don't.
Ready to go back.
Well, I think it's probably just a kind of a life lesson. It's a simpler time and age, but it also proves that no matter how simple it seems, life is difficult.
As it goes through the lives of these people, it shows how they're not paying attention to these wonderful things that are happening to them. And then when you see the ending, it's all about looking back and, oh man, I wish I would have paid attention more. I would have appreciated this more. I would have liked it more. Things like that are really nice to me because there's a lot of people out there that they take for granted the things that they're just given, the natural talents that they have. I mean, when I first came to start doing theater, that was like the first time I felt like I was good at something. I appreciated it very much. This place is very valuable to me. And a lot of people don't appreciate that, and this show is really, that's the message. You need to, be grateful for what you have, not for what you don't.
There are the stars doing their old crisscross journey across the sky. Scholars haven't settled it yet, but they seem to think there's no living beings up there, just chalk or fire. Only this one is straining away all the time, straining so hard that every 16 hours everybody has to lay down and take a rest. Well, it's 11 o'clock. You have a good rest too. Good night.
My name is Daphne Schuper, and I am the artistic director for the Young Players. They are an organization that began in 2002, and it's with an emphasis on teaching the children all about theater, whether it's being on the stage or helping behind the scenes, how to put a show together, and also to give them more opportunities to be on the stage. And that helps the Royal Players because that way they are ready to be on stage for a big production. They have some experience behind them.
Now I see kids that were just 4 or 5 years old in some of our early shows, like Best Christmas Pageant. Now they're in college and grown and maybe even married. And so it's been fun seeing the kids grow up in the theater.
We've seen so many children that has come through our programs that would stutter or would be afraid to be on stage or would be just grow in self-confidence, and just you can just see it, as they grew older. We could just watch them develop.
One little boy that he was probably 11 or 12, something like that, and he stuttered. And the cast helped him, and his cast name was Howard, and they would say, "Now Howard, don't you mean to say this?" when he would start stuttering. And he said, "Yeah, this is what I meant to say." And they carried him on through, so he started a bunch of shows and can give talks and stuff without stuttering, so it really brought him up. And a lot more of the kids through our children's program that it brought up and made better citizens out of them.
Working as a team is the main one because it takes everyone to put the show together. So we try to teach them they have to work as a team, and that there are no small actors. We really try to enforce that. We do a lot of things just acting wise, and let them help behind the scenes with stage management and help put props together. We try to make sure they're involved with the set build when it's safe for them to be involved with the set build. So we try to encompass it all.
To me, it's a place where a child can fit in if they don't fit in with athletics or if they're not a scholar. It's a home for a lot of our children. It's a safe place to be, and I've heard them say that over and over again.
Athletics are extremely important. Band is extremely important. My kids were band kids. Theater is extremely important, and it's ignored a lot of times. It's pushed to the side, and I'm truly sorry that it has, because I can see the need of it now, and I'm proud for the fact that Benton offers this and offers such a good quality of theater.
I can't tell you why theater is important to me. It's kind of like people that paint. Why do you paint? Well, or people that climb mountains, because it's there.
The theater is important to me because it's an escapism. It's I can't draw, and it's a wonderful way for me to express myself. I love to talk, as you can tell. So, and I'm not shy, as you can tell. So I just love the theater.
At the theater, it's just like another home. Everyone's nice here. Yeah.
I think it teaches life lessons, how to be patient, considerate, and just how to work as a team with everybody from all walks of life.
It's a way for people to come together from all kinds of backgrounds and create something that's one of a kind. If you go see a movie, once it's on film, it never changes. It's always the same. But when you go to live theater, or any type of live performing arts venue, it's always different. It's never exactly the same. I mean, we're going to do 8 shows, and none of those 8 shows are going to be like the other 7. And that's what I like that about it.
The arts express who we are as people. They reflect how we feel about ourselves and our surroundings. And so the Royal is the greatest example in Saline County, I think, of the arts. And got quite a gym here, so I support it every way I can.
What I think theater is important, I don't remember a time when it wasn't important to me. I think it's wonderful. I mean, there's a magic in theater, and if you have never experienced that, maybe it's something that other people don't understand. But just to go watch a play, I mean, that's wonderful that we offer it for people. I'm very proud of that.
I've seen it save lives. We had one kid that was in a lot of trouble, going to jail, and he came here for community service, and next thing you know, he's on stage, not ever getting in trouble anymore, goes off to college, and you just think, wow, theater did that.
I see people met where they are here. I see people believed in here. This is still a place you can grow. This is still a feel-good place. This is a place that evokes the best and doesn't pronounce judgment on people, because we're all different, and this meets people where they are in life. And so I think it's very important in a time when there's so much violence and so much bitterness and sadness and stuff in the world, is to have a place of hope. And I think this represents a place of hope.
I think we've just done wonders here to build this theater to the level it is. I think we're envied by a lot of people that we have a place, we have a home that so many people don't have.
How has the theater helped me with my life? It's made it a better life.
Theater has helped me, even at my age, so that I'm not quite so scared to get up in front of people.
It has actually given me a voice. Given me the ability to speak up and speak out. Given me confidence.
Growing up, I was homeschooled, and so I didn't get much social life outside of my own house. And so when my mom got us into theater, it helped me meet other people that were different than me, that led different lifestyles, and just helped me to meet new people and make new friends.
Theater people are fun people, but they also can be opinionated. And I've learned to compromise and learn to take somebody else's idea and kind of, okay, that's a great idea. What about if we did this? And then that third person will come along saying, okay, well, that sounds good. That made me think of this. Why don't we do it this way? So it's good team building.
Theater has helped me in my life because I'm not a social person. I don't like talking to people. I get very nervous. I would say I'm more of a film person, but theater is, everybody's really welcoming, and it's an easy way for me to communicate with people and make sure, no, they won't judge me for my opinions because they have opinions of themselves. They stand on stage and do wacky things, so that I'm a very wacky, crazy person, so knowing that there are people like that, it's easier for me to be myself.
When you're an actor and you have a character, you have to examine every part of the character. You have to know what their motivation is, why are they doing this, what are they feeling at this moment, and that allows you to become more open to the feelings and thoughts of others. So I guess that's how it's helped me.
I think that every character that you play as an actor and every play that you go to as an audience member affects your life. There are things that happen on stage that speak directly to people, either if they're the character or if they're sitting listening to it. And so that becomes part of your collective memory. And I think that it helps you to address issues that come up later in life or understand things that are happening. But I think no matter where you are in theater, things that happen here become so personal, they become a part of you.
It has helped me. It has given me a sense of purpose, because if I impact one person, that's an indelible mark that I've made on someone. They may have never encountered someone who cared anything about them.
It's helped me quite a bit. A broader outlook, like I say, an old redneck boy, needs a broader outlook on life.
Well, it can help by taking me away from the mundane things of life, you know, and become involved in a character and in the community of characters, because it is a community of characters that you rely on each other so much in a play. So it's really nice to have that feeling.
We're going to help people where they are. We're going to work with people and try and impact people's lives on an individual and a collective basis in this theater group. And it's helped me because I've been a small part of it. I've been able maybe to leave a couple of footprints here and there in this building and maybe make some small contribution. So it's been a blessing for me.
This group, this core group that's still with this, what they have learned and what they're teaching the other people will make this theater live forever. And I'm so proud of them, beginning with Bob.
I was standing by my window on a cold and cloudy day when I saw that first cup roll for to take my mother away with its circle being broken line by